There is a need for organizational standards. Following standards results into improved products and services, as well as an enhancement in the performance level of the organization. So there is the project and the product life cycles, and it is a good practice to divide projects into several phases, as projects operate as part of a system and involve uncertainty. There is an uncertainty as to whether a project will be completed or not. So the same can be said for developing products. A project lifecycle is a collection of project phases that defines the following. It defines what work will be performed in each of the phases. It also defines what deliverables will be produced and when they will be produced. It defines who is involved in each of these phases and how management will control and also approve work that is produced in each phase. A deliverable is a product or service that is produced as part of a project. Now, in the early phases of a project lifecycle, the resources that are needed are usually low. They are usually the lowest. And then the level of uncertainty during this phase is high. It is the highest. And then the project stakeholders have the greatest opportunity to influence the project at this early phase. In the middle phase of a project lifecycle, the certainty of completing that project improves, and then, of course, more resources become needed. And then in the final phase of a project lifecycle, there is a focus on making sure that the project requirements were met and that the sponsor of that project approves completion of the project. Products have life cycles as well. The systems development lifecycle is a framework that describes the phases of developing information systems. A systems development project can follow different life cycles, such as the predictive life cycle, iterative life cycle, incremental life cycle, adaptive life cycle, and the hybrid life cycle. The predictive life cycle is a project life cycle where the scope, the cost, and time of the project are determined in the initial phases of the life cycle. That is, the final product of the project can be predicted and you know how to do what you have to do to deliver the right product. The iterative life cycle involves repeating a phase before proceeding to the next phase in a project. The teams that use this process create, test, and revise until they are satisfied with the end result. So it involves building, refining, and continuously improving a product. During the incremental life cycle, the work is sliced into pieces, and these pieces are known as increments. So an incremental process makes progress through small increments. This life cycle breaks down the project into small chunks and works towards the end goal. For example, when you are making bread, you make the dough first, then you bake it, and then you go ahead to serve. So you have succeeded in dividing the work into small pieces to reach the end goal by doing this. The adaptive life cycle is a combination of the iterative and incremental models. So in this life cycle, the customer involvement is key to a successful project. And then the hybrid life cycle fuses elements together to create a new model or approach. For example, using the iterative or agile method. We'll talk about the agile method as we progress further in this chapter. So using the iterative or agile method for requirement gathering, and then using the incremental or sequential process to formalize deployment, okay, all in one life cycle. So the hybrid fuses elements together to create a new approach. So the right life cycle to use for your project depends on what you may be trying to achieve and what is most important to you and the client, as well as the internal stakeholders. The product life cycle has different models, such as the waterfall model, the spiral model, prototyping model, and the rapid application development model. This is a figure illustration of the waterfall and the spiral life cycle models. As you can see, the water model consists of the analysis phase, the design phase, construction phase, testing phase, and the support phase, while the spiral model consists of the implementation, design, analysis, and testing phases. Now, there is an importance of project phases and management reviews. A project has to successfully pass through each of the project phases before it continues on to the next. A management review, which is also known as a phase exits or a phase gate review or Q points, has to take place after each phase of a project. This is done to evaluate the project's progress and to ensure that the process is carried out in accordance to what the organization has set down as goals. It has to be compatible with the organizational goals. So it is not a wise thing to wait until a project has ended before these reviews are carried out. The management inputs are needed at every phase of a project. So many projects are reviewed by the management on a basis that is regular. And then there is what is known as the cost overrun and time overrun, whereby the cost of running a project, the cost that is incurred during running a project increases. And then the time overrun happens when a project is not completed within the time that had been set for the completion of that project. So being able to get off this and reducing the cost overrun and time overrun has contributed to the success rate of a project. It has a major impact on the success rate. Now, talking about the context of information technology projects, the context of a project has a critical impact on which product development life cycle will be most effective to carry out a software development project. IT projects are diverse in different ways, ranging from size to complexity to the products that are produced, the application area, as well as the resources that are required. So the nature of a software development project is even more diverse than a hardware-oriented project. There are different characteristics of the IT project team members. Now, the team members that make up a team in an IT project often have backgrounds and skill sets that are diverse. Everyone's skill set and background is unique to them. So a lot of companies hire graduates with degrees in other fields, not just IT, not just people with degrees in IT, but people with degrees in business, mathematics, or even liberal arts, so that they can provide different perspectives on IT projects. So some IT projects requires the skills of people in just a few job functions, while some other require inputs from many or even all of them. So IT projects make use of technologies that change rapidly, diverse technologies that change rapidly, and then the differences that exist in the technical knowledge can make the communication between professionals to become challenging. So the new technologies have reduced the time frame that businesses spend to develop, produce, and distribute their new products and services. There are recent trends that affect information technology project management, and one of it happens to be globalization. So globalization describes how trade and technology has made the world into a more connected and interdependent place, and also the economic and social changes that have come with it. And then another trend is outsourcing. So outsourcing is when organizations acquire goods or even services from from sources that are outside of their organization. And then offshoring is a term that is used to describe outsourcing, but from another country. And then there is the virtual team. So a virtual team, we know what a virtual team is. It is a group of individuals that are in different locations that work and collaborate together using communication technologies. And then there is the agile project management. And then there are issues associated with globalization, such as communications, trust, common work practices, and tools. And then to tackle these, there are suggestions such as employing greater project disciplines, and then you have to think globally but act locally. Collaborations need to be considered instead of standardization. And then the newer technology and tools should be utilized, and then the project momentum should be kept going. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages of the virtual teams. The advantages are that having a virtual team incurs lower costs because an office space is not required. All you need is an internet and a computer, and you can work from anywhere. You can work from your home. And because you are working with different people from across the globe, you are provided with more expertise. Okay, so more expertise is provided, more flexibility is provided, competitiveness is increased, and then you have increased responsiveness because you can work at any time of the day. You can work at night, you can work at any time that is convenient from you. So this is one advantage of having a virtual team. And then another advantage is that a work-life balance is improved for the team members because they do not have to go to the office at specific times. For example, having to work 9 to 5, and they do not need to travel often for work. So this improves the work-life balance. And then talking about the disadvantages, the team members are isolated. Remember that you are working from home. You don't have to go to a physical location where you can meet your co-team members. So isolation of team members is a disadvantage, and then there is an increased potential for communication problems to arise. Also, there is a reduced ability for team members to network and transfer information informally. When you are meeting physically with other people and have to work in shared spaces, you tend to have more opportunity to network. So this is reduced as a result of working virtually. And then, of course, there is an increased dependence on technology to get work done. Now, talking about agile. Okay, so agile as a word means being able to move quickly and easily. But when it comes to project management, people see it differently. The early software development projects used a waterfall approach. Okay, in the past, software development projects used the waterfall approach, but as time went on and technology and businesses have become more complex, the approach became difficult to use because the requirements were unknown and were changing continuously. So today, agile means using an approach where requirements and solutions evolve through collaboration. There is a manifesto for agile software development. Okay, so the manifesto. This manifesto states that we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others to do it. So through this work, we have come to value individuals and interaction over processes and tools, which means that individuals and interactions are very important and they have value, more value instead of as against processes and tools. And then there is a value on a software that is working as against comprehensive documentation. There is a value on customer collaboration as against contract negotiation. And of course, there's a value on responding to change instead of following a plan. Now, before we move further, let us talk more on the agile process. Okay, so the agile project management is an iterative approach to managing software development projects. And these software development projects focus on continuous releases and include customer feedback with every iteration. Okay, so the agile process involves breaking down a project's development into manageable phases and working on it continuously by making improvements every time. Agile can be considered incremental because you are dealing with small chunks at a time, but in an iterative way, since the whole system will be passed through. So agile is also iterative because we repeat the same process over and over. Iterative is a cycle. So moving on, we'll talk about Scrum. Okay, so Scrum is a type of agile methodology that consists of meetings, roles, and tools to help teams collaborate, structure, and manage their work. So it is a leading agile development method for completing projects. Okay, so this is a illustration of the Scrum, and there is something known as Kanban. It is a visual system that is used to manage and keep track of work as it moves through a process. It is a framework that is used to implement agile software development, and it makes use of visual cues to guide workflow. The cards show work that is new and also shows work that is in progress and work that is completed. So we have defined agile as a methodology, and then the Project Management Institute has recognized that there is an increased interest in agile, and therefore they introduced a new certification, and this certification is called Agile Certified Practitioner. So seasoned project managers, that is project managers with a lot of experience, okay, they understand that they have always had the option of customizing how they run projects. They can customize how their projects are run. However, they also understand that project management is not easy, even when using agile. And then we have come to the end of this chapter.